Welcome, travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Lee Wanika, and this is Tabletop Journeys, where we will be your not-so-humble guides on the quest for RPG adventures.
Welcome, travelers. Hi, I'm Lee Wanika, and this is Tabletop Journeys. Joining me tonight is our dearest friend from the Midwest. Take it away, Michael.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael. I'm here with Lee Wanika, and we have an exciting show for you tonight. We are going to be interviewing a new game designer who has a game currently on Kickstarter. All the info, all the links will be in the show notes, but we are very excited to welcome Frank to the show. Frank, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Frank. I'm on the show. It's nice to be here. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I keep telling my wife that. As soon as she believes it, I will send a memo.
If you need me to write you a note, I can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you the address as soon as we're done recording.
Sounds good.
In all seriousness, Frank, thanks so much for coming on the show. You have an amazing game that we're gonna be talking to you about. But for starters, tell us just a little bit about yourself. It's not the interview question; it's more tell us about the game. Give us a quick one piece on the game and what we're going to be asking you about overall.
Sure. The game is called Young Asgardians. It's for kids ages 6 to 10. It's kind of a starter RPG. And it's kids get to play as guardian children their own age. So they're not trying to play a 30-year-old barbarian or something. They're actually playing kids their own age who are the god of something, and they don't know what they're the god of yet. So part of this is exploration, and part of it's learning how to collaborate and communicate and cooperate.
Excellent. A little yapple dapple there for those of a certain age. But wonderful. So one of the fun things that we like to do here is we roll for initiative to see who gets to ask the first question, and we do that with the greatest die, the pinnacle of the polyhedrals.
That's right.
As an expert said just a few moments ago, the D12. So D12's to the ready, kind sir.
Oh, I'm already there. I'm waiting on you.
Already there. All right. So I have a 9.
Oh,
No, I'm sorry. The dot's in a different place. It's a 6.
you still beat me. I came in at a 3.
Excellent. So I get the first question. So, Frank, let's start at the start. You said that this is a game designed for kids ages 6 to 10. And tell us what gave you the idea, what gave you the impetus for creating a game specifically for this age range?
I have 3 kids, and we were living in Italy, and we lived there for years, and my kids were raised there for not the first 5 years, but anyway, we were there for about 5 years, and I started joining a D&D group with some Italian friends of mine. That was a lot of fun, but I would come back and I would tell them stories about the game that we played and the adventures that we had. And I was playing a barbarian who had a trident and very Jason Momoa-ish, and they know I love Aquaman. So they would hear the stories and the tales. And the more I told them about it, the more excited they were getting. And so they were like, can we play? And I thought that the rule set for D&D was just beyond them. And being able to explain that to them in a simple way that would allow us to play quickly didn't exist. So I had designed my own games before, so I was like, let me give me a couple of weeks. Let me put something together. I had been telling them bedtime stories, and I was using Asgard as the tapestry. So I was telling them about the wedding where Thor dresses in the dress, and I'm telling them about the hammer and Odin and Balder and all of these things, and so they knew the lore, and so it seemed to be the perfect opportunity to not only create a game, but to create change in my children, hopefully behaviorally. I have now, I didn't have a degree in psychology when I started it, but I have one now, and I'm in grad school for counseling. And a lot of this goes into how I think behavior is shaped by your victory conditions.
Okay.
And talk about that in more depth whenever you're ready. But that's the gist of it. I created this game for my sons, and it turned out to be a wonderful way for us to stay connected, for us to play every single week. Even when like my wife and I separated, we would do Zoom calls every week, and for an hour and a half, I would play with these three young kids over Zoom, and they were engaged the whole time, and they learned to collaborate and cooperate and communicate, which is exactly what I wanted.
Okay.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So just again, it's a quick reminder. This is a game that's like currently on Kickstarter. It's on Kickstarter right now. We're recording this, there's 18 days left. I think there'll be like 3 or 4 before it rolls out. But there should be roughly be 2 weeks still on the Kickstarter by the time this comes out. It has already funded, but obviously we want to get it as funded as much as possible, get more people checking it out. There'll be links in the show notes to get to it. I will say your Kickstarter is a little light on some details. Okay. And so I want to get some of the meat and potatoes. So like, what is the general game loop? Is it a D20, DC sort of a thing? You mentioned that collaboration is like, not necessarily it's encouraged, it's like required in some way. So I'm guessing it's something where people have to build things together. Do you build a dice pool? I'm just curious about what's an average, we're fighting a lizard monster as an Asgardian. What is that going to look like?
It's a D6. Okay. And I chose that because my thinking was that was the easiest dice to acquire for anybody. I didn't want there to be a barrier to entry, so I built it around the D6. One of the things that I changed about this was that the players or the characters that they're playing don't have attributes like strength or intelligence or wisdom. They have problem-solving abilities. So how would you like to approach this problem was how we phrased everything.
Okay.
Would you like to try to use force? Would you like to use ingenuity? Would you like to just use tenacity? Just keep working at the problem until you figure it out. Would you like to use your skills, your knowledge, magic? But that was the framing. And so if you had something like you had a boulder that needed to be moved and you had, a force ability, your problem-solving ability being force, you're not strong enough to move it by yourself. But you and somebody who's got ingenuity might be able to create a fulcrum and a lever to move the boulder together.
Okay.
So everything was additive, and there was just simply a difficulty score based on the task. So they rolled the dice, added it to their whatever that ability was, or that problem-solving ability was, add it together, and if it's higher than the difficulty rating, they succeed.
Okay, so it's a single D6 additive based on what you're doing, and the DC is set by the game master or whatever that would be called. Based on, okay, all right,
exactly.
No. Okay, works for me.
Yeah, real simple. And I wanted it to be something that they could grasp and understand and do the math in their head, because I didn't want it to be all behind a thing and magically they either succeeded or failed. Mm-hmm. So they'd be like, oh, okay, so you got a 6 and I got a 5 and that's 11. And so blah, blah, blah. And so they were doing the math very quickly. It's something they got very good at. So it was working.
Okay. I like it. Leonika?
Yeah. So you mentioned the fact that on the Kickstarter that this is the first step. And maybe should probably be a latter question, but I'm going to ask it now because who knows if Michael's going to try to snipe me on this one. And he probably will.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, if this particular Kickstarter has your core rules and this has your, teach folks the game loop and what have you, does it come with adventures or adventure scenarios for people to use? And in addition to that, what are some of the ideas you have for future supplements or future add-ons to this game system?
Cool. So this version of the rules includes 3 worlds. It's Asgard, Midgard, and Jotunheim. So we have adventures in the land of the giants. They can go to Earth, meet humans, and they play in Asgard. So there's this thing where they'll meet characters from those 3 realms. And based on those things, they'll either, they'll make friendships, make alliances, or have troubles with it. But ultimately, they're still kids. And so, their father might tell them, listen, take the carriage, go into the village, get some whatever and come back. But it's not like go to Jotunheim and come back. So these adventures are kind of like are a little off the beaten path. They're supposed to be kind of like, we really shouldn't be doing this, but you know, they follow a lead, or they make a friend, and it kind of leads them on to these adventures. So there are some basic scenarios in the original core book, and as those realms are described, we talk about the kind of adventures that can occur there, some of the dangers that might present, some of the friends that they might meet. We'll put in some NPCs that they can, immediately meet instead of having to create them on their own. Did I answer that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent.
Yeah.
Michael?
So I'm also a father. I have two boys, currently almost 16 and 14, so like a year and a half apart.
Yeah.
And I've been a gamer since I was a wee lad, and I was really nervous about bringing my kids because I wanted them to love this thing as much as I do. I'm not necessarily big into sports. I don't hunt. I don't fish, even though I'm from the South. So I was like, this is going to be my thing with my kids. And so I was like, if I screw this up, so I was very anxious, which I'm an anxious person by nature anyways. So I put a lot of thought into how do I do this? And that is something, just because of, reading over your explanation and your summary, I'm like, that's kind of the process I went through. Ultimately, I didn't create my own game, which is kind of surprising for who I am, but it was something I was really concerned about. So in addition to just the rule set that you have, because there are others out there if people want to explore that,
Sure.
what sort of things went into your process for, like, how do I play a game with 6, 7, 8-year-olds that don't just become murder hobos, but any other like things that you learned, maybe now that you have a degree in psychology and you're exploring that, but like from the game master side of it, what sort of advice would you give to anyone playing games with kids, or specifically your game with kids?
Cool. Thank you for the question. So I'm going to talk about victory conditions, which is something that's near and dear to me. This will probably end up being my doctoral thesis if I ever go that far. But basically, my thesis is that victory conditions drive human behavior. So depending on what the conditions of victory are, people will modify their behavior to win, to meet those conditions. So if you're playing Monopoly, you have to be okay with being ruthless, merciless, and making sure that everybody, by the end of that game, if you want to win, you have to make sure that everybody is broke, homeless, destitute, and dying in a gutter. There's no other way to win that game. There's no like, oh, we can both win. That's not how the game is written. So the victory conditions for that game change your behavior. If you're not a person who would normally want people to be destitute, if you want to win this game, you have to change your behavior. And so that was kind of my thesis statement for how I created the game. Mm-hmm. How do I want my kids to behave in the real world? So I want them to practice it in the game. So the practice was, I wanted to create a system that made collaboration inevitable, and they would have to cooperate to succeed. So the victory conditions were collaboration, and that's what they learned. And that's those skills transferred into real life, which was everything I wanted and more. The way that they learned to communicate with each other and collaborate and cooperate was a dream come true. They were less bickery. They were fighting less. They weren't as agitated all the time with each other. So the rules for the game were built around that premise that, I really wanted to look at what victory looked like. And so when I was creating adventures for it, one of my sons was very young. He was like 4.5 when we started. Mm-hmm. And the other two were maybe 6. So it was very, very early. And they had a cousin who was bullying them. Oh. So I had a bully in the village that they encountered. And it kind of allowed them to, in a very safe way, practice skills that would help them deal with a bully. So the game ended up becoming like a sandbox for their behavior.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I too am a father of 6, and I have several kids who play and are very immersed in nerd culture. I have a couple who are tangentially involved in nerd culture. One of my daughters, she's it depends on the show. Some of the genre shows she really, really loves. Some of them she's not so big on. Back in the day, she loves Stargate. Currently, she was howling about Stranger Things, a show I haven't even watched. So,
Mm.
I share Michael's nervousness around how do I make sure I bring them in right, because obviously with a couple of my kids I didn't. So I was like,
Well,
I gave it a good go. Maybe it's just not their thing, but
right.
there were definitely, I have several that took right to it, so I definitely feel the need to do it right. And I love the care with which you considered the behavior piece. Um,
Thank you.
I've always considered myself a GM who doesn't particularly care to do evil campaigns. Certainly not long term. A one shot here or there is one thing, but I've never liked doing campaigns of that nature for unspoken or unknown to me. But honestly, you're enunciating, you're saying the words that explain the why I never felt comfortable doing
Hmm.
long term evil campaigns,
Yeah.
which is not to say that evil characters don't exist in the world that I play or run. It's just to say that's a challenge for me to be okay with on a long term basis. Whether it's me doing it or other people doing it, I'm not great with that. One of those lines veils
Yeah, I like to
situations
play
for
these
myself.
games to be heroes. That's one of the
Yep.
fantasies I'm engaging in.
Thank you.
So
I
yeah.
mean, that's ultimately my power fantasy is helping people.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I want to be a
like,
hero. My only exception is actually superhero games. I think playing a super villain is easier to run for because it's a more proactive type of hero, but we're getting way off into the weeds of
no,
that.
I
But
totally
anyways,
get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, superheroes tend to be reactive to
yes.
villains' plans. I
They,
totally get it.
they hang around waiting for the trouble alert to go off.
Right.
And it's like, that's
Well,
kind of
look,
boring.
like somebody has to put up a flare before you go and do something.
Right.
It's like, oh, the
Yeah.
bat signal. All right, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Um, the victory conditions thing actually extends throughout. It's a philosophy through the whole thing. So my youngest son, whose name is Nero, he was so eager to jump in and fight everything. If he encountered a chicken, he wanted to punch it. Like he was literally just trying to, and like he wanted to be Thor. He wanted to have the big hammer that he could throw that would come back to him. And I'm like, sure. But it was a long time before they found their special weapons, and they were unique to them. And this is
Mhm.
part of the game mechanics now. This is one of the things that they'll get along the way. But you have to know your players first, because Nero, because he was so aggressive and wanted to bash, and I was like, okay, cool. You've got this maul. I gave him a maul instead of a hammer, so it was like twice his size. But he was the only one who could lift it, just like he wanted. Cool. But he couldn't lift it if he was angry.
Mm.
And he couldn't lift it if he wanted to hurt somebody with it. So he had to regulate himself in order to use the thing that he wanted. My son Aegean was a bit more timid and afraid to go into battle. He was afraid he was going to get hurt, his character might get killed or something. So I gave him a shield that would allow him to protect himself and others. But the shield grew or shrank in proportion to his courage. So he learns that being braver allows him to do more.
Mhm.
And again, because those were the victory conditions, it changed his behavior. So that
Yeah, I think I kind of stood in Leonika's way there. I don't know if so. You still ask your question, please.
Oh, no, no. Actually, less of a question because I like where that went, and I'm fine with it. It's as you were saying that. What strikes me is a discussion that I've seen because I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, going back to the original comics, not just the '80s cartoons and such. But huge fan. And there's a debate or a discussion that's been ongoing that I personally consider settled lore, but it was the fact that Master Splinter had provided weapons for each of the turtles that were the opposite of their natural inclinations. For example, Raphael, the most aggressive of the turtles, he gets the most defensive of the weapons.
Mm.
Michelangelo, the most scattered and unfocused of the turtles, gets the weapon that requires the most focus and attention to detail, the nunchucks.
Yeah.
The most technically minded, the most skilled, I'm going to build things in all the craziest ways, gets the
It's a
most
stick.
simplistic weapon. He gets a stick.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
go
Yeah.
fishing, kid. And then Leonardo, the one who is measured, doesn't necessarily want to fight, never wants. He gets the sword, the most dangerous and deadly of the weapons,
Yeah.
to be the leader of the of his brothers. And I always loved the poetry of that concept.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's not the weapon to power up the things you are inclined to do. It's the weapon to improve the areas you need to improve in.
Exactly. It's a
And
tool for
I think
growth.
that's, yeah, and
Yeah.
I love that concept. That's really, really well done.
Thank you. Yeah. But the thing about that is that it takes learning your player. It's not something they're going to get on the first session.
Mhm.
It's going to be okay. Well, the first session with my sons where they live on a farm outside of a village, and they saw this little goblin steal one of their sheep and go running into the woods. And they're like, Dad's not home, or he's not answering or whatever, and we have to go save our sheep. That was the first adventure. Them just running across this field, going into the woods and trying to bring back a sheep. They had nothing except each other. And so part of that is, okay, well, let's see what they do, you know? And there was a lot of course correcting on my part because they'd never played before. And so allowing them to kind of explore what that could mean also shaped how the game was played and what it became later. Because the original set of rules were kind of, rough. It was like, all right, we're going to have this stuff. And then I overcomplicated it and then cut it back down. But ultimately, they taught me how the game should be played because that was the demographic who was going to play it.
Mhm.
Excellent, excellent. So we kind of got off the beaten track. So Michael,
Yeah.
I think we'll go to you for
Okay.
the next question, and then I'll take us out with another or take us into another question after that.
Okay. So, as someone who has ran a small but successful Kickstarter myself, and I know Lee Winika and Josh have as well, we have a little bit of experience with that. And there's a lot of like nuts and bolts. So I'm always interested in that. And I think people who back Kickstarters, there's always a little bit of fear. This is the first Kickstarter, at least within this company name, that you've ever done. So I do want to ask some nuts and bolts question. Right now, it looks like you're expecting to fulfill this in April of this year, 2026.
Mhm.
So is the game completely done? Is it already printed somewhere? Are you going to print in China? Are you going to print in the US? Like, what's it going to physically look like when I get a package from you?
Cool. It's going to be printed here.
Okay.
And if you're just getting the rule book, it's basically a comic size saddle stitched comic book with the rules and illustrations.
Okay.
The box set has the game book. It's going to have a map of the village. It's going to have dice in there. It'll have character sheets. It comes with a lot, or at least I think it's a lot.
Okay.
But I was trying to recreate that feeling that I had with the blue box of Dungeons and Dragons that I played in like 1977. Like that's when I started. With that blue box on a snow day, and somebody called me over to their house, and like I was hooked for the rest of my life. That was it. So I'm trying to recreate that feeling for kids. The rules have been written for a long time because I've been playing this with them for years.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's a polished pass just to make sure that it's ready for public consumption because that's a different beast entirely. But yeah, everything you need to be will be in that box. When I created the Kickstarter, I honestly was just hoping I would get 10 people who would download the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, if that's all I get out of this, that's fine. I'll consider that a success, which is why the funding price was so low.
Mm-hmm.
And less than 60 seconds out of the gate, somebody bought the highest tier and funded it. And I was just like, all right, well, now we're off to the races.
Right. As we say in the South, now it's just gravy.
Now it's just gravy.
Now it's just
Yeah.
gravy. All right.
It's always gravy.
It's well, but so again, so do you already have a printer, or do you already have copies printed? Like, will you be fulfilling from your house, or are you working with a warehouse or a distribution partner?
We're going to be doing because there's going to be a small enough print run on this that we're going to be kind of doing. A friend of mine, Barry Gregory, runs Kablam.
Okay.
So I'm going to have him do the printing of the comic, and then Mixam is doing the box stuff, and they've got dice. They've got all of the parts and everything, so they'll assemble those, send them to me. We'll put the thing in there and ship them out.
Okay. Do you have any production copies or proofs or anything? Because that is one thing I would say I probably would like to have seen on the Kickstarter is pictures of those.
Sure. I don't have those yet.
Okay. It happens. No worries. You get not the first nor the last, but just that is something people might want to see if you have the ability to get them up before the Kickstarter is over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can say Tabletop Journeys has great success with Mixam. We've used them in the past for our production as well.
Cool.
That all sounds really wonderful. And yeah, that was a sniped question. So we knew it was going to happen, right?
Probably, yeah.
It was written there. So I guess, wow, you really did take my question. Took me, caught me flat-footed once again, Michael.
Well, I have another one ready I can give you in editing, because one of the things that I'm interested in again is it sounds like, Frank, you are a longtime gamer. You've been playing for a long time. A lot of people who have kids who they want to introduce to gaming are not gamers, or they would just start playing with them like their home game. So what resources or what if I don't know anything about gaming, but my kids are interested, what resources in this game would help me as a parent that's just like, my kids came home, they watched Stranger Things or whatever kids on the playground talking about D&D, but I don't want to start with D&D. What resources will this game give me as an unaffiliated parent to get my kids into gaming? If you want to reword that in a way that makes sense, Lewanika, that is definitely a question I have, but I can also ask that as my next question if we go there. I wasn't sure how many we had left.
I think that's a perfect question. I'm going to let you answer it, and Josh doesn't have to edit a thing.
Perfect.
Why mess with perfection?
That's literally the answer to that question is literally how the rules are written.
Okay.
It's for the first time GM, and not even somebody who necessarily wants to even play a role-playing game, but who wants to engage with their children in a way that they find engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I found out that my kids were playing Fortnite, what did I do? I got on Fortnite and I got good. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want them to not want to play with me because I sucked.
Right.
My dedication to spending time with my children outweighed everything. So I would grind for hours just to be competent enough to play with them because they have the reflexes of an 11-year-old and I clearly do not. So this game is a tool to help you understand and connect with either your children or your students. Because I do want this. I would love to see this in schools. Something that you can do in the library, something that's age appropriate, something that can be done in community centers. I want this to be a tool that allows you to connect with kids and learn who they are while they're discovering who they are. Because part of this is because they are the god of something and they don't know what they're the god of yet. Throughout the course of our adventures, they were just kind of like, can I try to talk to that frog? And I'm like, yeah, talk to the frog. And so they would go over and try to talk to the frog, and they would roll a die. And if their die roll was really low, it's like, you didn't talk to the frog. That's it. You're not sure if that's going to be your thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I found that the child who kept wanting to talk to animals never tried to breathe underwater. There was one of my children who really liked the water, and so they were asking if they could swim faster, or if they could breathe underwater, or if they could talk to fish, and that was all he was focused on. I'm like, great. Clearly that's his affinity. That's where his domain's going to be. Mm-hmm. But I discovered that through play.
Okay.
Because ultimately they tell me. And so they understand that they're not going to be the god of storms, the god of thunder. They're probably going to be the god of, leaves or
Mhm.
you know hills. Like,
Right. Yeah.
you're not gonna have mountains. You're the goddess of whispers.
Right.
Okay, but it's like, but you get to play with that and watching them figure out ways that they could combine those powers um, was really magical for me
Mhm.
anyway. Like watching them be creative and like I said, they helped shape how this game was played because of how they interacted. Well, if everything that we do kind of gets better when we collaborate, how do we use our godly things together? How does that
Mhm.
work? So they did.
Yeah. That kind of goes in line with a GM tip I like to give newer GMs who are like, I don't exactly know what my players want to do. I'm like, just pay attention to what they are doing when you are not doing anything. And it's like they will find their own fun, and then you go, oh, they want to talk to all the NPCs, or they want to try to capture a tame a horse or a unicorn or whatever. Just pay attention and then roll that into what they're doing in the future. So it sounds like that's kind of baked into this game as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I'm going to snap one more question. So once the Kickstarter is over, will this be something people like if they don't get on in time?
Yep.
Is this going to be something that would roll into retail, or will you have like an online web store? Like if they miss the Kickstarter, can they still get the game?
That's a good question. And I'm not sure I have a firm answer on that yet.
Okay.
Um, because I'm in
We
grad
can
school.
just cut that out if we don't want it in there, or if you want us to leave the fact that you're working on it, we can do that too.
Yeah. That answer's up in the air.
Okay.
I would not be. I don't think that I would be opposed to licensing the game to a larger company and let them do what they do best.
Okay.
But we'll see how it goes. If people like the game and it gets a little traction, then we'll
Okay.
take the next steps.
So I can't say it again for Leonica and myself. Like if it's just the PDF itself is very easy to put onto a web store, drive through RPG, IPR, both have ability to like for
Yep.
very small part of the cost, they will handle that for you, or you can create a web store yourself very easily for this. If it's just the PDF, if you want to do physical stuff, that's a whole new other ball game. You can do print on demand, but the cost usually is too high. But
Mhm.
again, you can look into that. But anyway, so Leonica, do you have anything else for Frank here?
I think I would probably just close out by saying thank you very much, Frank, for coming in, talking about the game,
Yes.
and exciting me about games for younger people, giving me some nostalgia about when my kids were young and I was playing, validating the choices that I've made and other friends have made as parents, bringing up our kids in role playing over the years. When I first moved back to Connecticut, I wanted to game with my old gaming buddies that were back here. One of my good friends that I was in the army with, and he had two young kids. I had one of my young kids with me. We're both doing the whole single dad thing, and we realized that as single dads trying to manage life and raising children, gaming time doesn't exist for us. And I said, well, that doesn't have to be the case, buddy. How's this? What if I just run a game that we'd both feel comfortable with our kids playing? We've known each other for a bunch of years. So it's like, we grew up, our kids had grown up around each other. So it's like, I'll just make a game that's basically for you, me, and the kids. And then if we get other people to play, we get other people to play. That's how I got back into gaming when I got back here. Ran that
I love
game
that.
for years, and then switched over to D&D 5e at some point. And that D&D campaign went for 6 years also. Like
Oh wow.
literally took our kids from 10 all the way to 19 is the youngest one is mine, and he's 19 now, got his own apartment with his best friend, and like he's the GM for that group. He goes to
Mm.
conventions with me. The other kids play and do Ren fairs and the whole bit, and it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
But so validating what a whole mess of us single parents have done over the years. And, I'm a single dad, but it's not just single dads. I have plenty of geek friends who are single moms as well,
Yeah.
that have been, just trying to find a way to keep their kids doing something that's positive and uplifting, not running the streets, causing havoc.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that there's still a lot of creators out there trying to fill that niche.
Yeah. I will say that as a divorced father, when we first split, that game was a lifeline for us,
Mhm.
knowing that every Sunday I would have a solid hour with them. Because I don't know if you ever tried to talk to young children on the phone, but it's like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Okay. What's going on? Nothing. How was school today? Okay. Like, it's a 3-minute conversation, and it's heartbreaking when you have to hang up and you felt like you had no connection with them.
Mhm.
Yep.
That game was a lifesaver. Every week, at least once a week for an hour, we got on Zoom and I did funny voices and I played characters and I created an adventure and we went on a journey together. And that connection was everything to me. It was a lifesaver because being without my kids was the worst thing ever.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. I was blessed by being the custodial parent for one of my one of my kids, and so while I did not have that experience with that one, my oldest, whom I did not have with me regularly for a long time, that is exactly how it felt. Like it was hard. Hard doesn't even begin to describe it.
Right.
Well, whenever I got my weekends, we might paintball for a little bit with a bunch of my buddies. We'll do some pickup football, but I could almost guarantee you that at least 2-3 hours are going to be gaming. We had an ongoing game with another friend and his son. So it was two dads, two sons, and we'd play a game and whatnot. And both are fine young men at this point in time, with aged fathers, as it were. But
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
games can be the great connector. I've seen Michael, the way he beams when I tell stories about his children at my game tables, and whatnot, and I've seen his wife do the same thing, and so much better than all the other things that they could be doing.
Yeah. It's a proud papa moment for me when my son ran his first game at a convention. And just to circle back around, and I say it sort of tongue in cheek because it was said in a sort of like a funny, condescending way. But one of my favorite TV shows of all time is X-Files. One of my favorite episodes of the X-Files is Jose Chung's From Outer Space. And there's a character who's kind of put upon at one point says, well, hey, I didn't spend all these years playing Dungeons and Dragons and not learn a little something about courage. And I mean that to say that, like, I want my kids to learn real life lessons from the games that they play. And I really like that. That's probably the biggest takeaway I have from this from you, Frank, was that you want your kids to be better people for having played this game. And whether it's D&D or Young Asgardians or others, I love the fact that there are baked in elements of, yes, we're having fun. Yes, we're connecting, but my kids will be better people for it. And I absolutely love that.
I have to circle back to one of the mechanics in the game. One of the problem solving abilities that they've got is tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
It's just grit. Every time you try something using tenacity and fail, you get to try again and add +1. Every time.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Eventually you will succeed. And that's literally the lesson of the game. Like, you can't lose if you don't quit. And so they just kept trying and watching them transfer that into real life, because the way it's framed when I was teaching them the game was that the first time you fire an arrow at the target, it's probably not going to hit the bullseye, but you're going to know it went a little to the right. So you're going to adjust to the left. That's why you get the +1, because you learned something from the failure. And that's how they've approached everything since.
Nice. I loved it. So once again, what's the name of the game?
Young Asgardians.
And it is on Kickstarter as we speak. When this episode comes out live, it will still be on Kickstarter, probably for roughly 2 weeks, maybe a little less, depends on how quick we get this out, but we're going to try our best to get out as quick as we can. There will be links in the show notes to make it easy for people to follow that link to get there. But if people want to interact with you on like social media, do you have a website? Do you have a social link, Facebook? Where should people go to interact with Frank?
Wow. I just have a Facebook account. And it's just Frank Fradella. That's me.
All right. We'll try to put those links in the show notes as well for people. And again, so email if they want to like ask questions or if they want to try to find the game in the wild. Is Frank on Facebook still the best place to go?
If people want to email me about the game, they can use, let's go with fvfradella @gmail.com.
Excellent. All right. Well, actually,
And,
best of luck. Again, the game is already funded, so
Yep.
if you back it, you will get it. That equation has already been
Yep.
answered. But let's get some more support. Let's get some more money there so that we can make the game biggest and best as possible. So,
Guys, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for having me. This has been a blast.
absolutely, it was our pleasure, my friend.
And that is part of the Make 100
Mhm.
January program as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. So
Because Lee Wanika's got one of those right now too.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us in that, because Make 100 is something we did a couple of years ago, and we've decided that we want to keep doing it on the regular because it's a fun program. They tend to be smaller Kickstarters, but it's
Yeah.
more because we're learning ways to make things faster, easier, better. Be able to fund, fulfill more quickly. Our project, by the way, is the Bridgewell Chronicles Part 1. It's a series of one-shot adventures for D&D 5e 2024. The idea is this is starter adventures, level 1 adventures, set for parties, 4 to 6, the standard party size or what have you, but they're basically one-pagers, real short, that can be plug and played into any adventure setup. Honestly, they're mostly just the scenarios and some basic stat blocks. I'm sure you could take those and adapt them very easily into your system as well, because here's the location, here's some NPCs, here's the scenario, a couple story beats, fly and be free, my friends. It's a fun little thing that we've got going on. In addition to that, we also have a card set that's going in. So our NPCs have little cards where one side you get a picture of the NPC, the other side you get stat blocks, and we have some location cards. So each of the locations that are featured in each of the 9 adventures are there as well, with some great flavor text and ambiance for each of the adventure locations. And that is at, let me see if I can get this right. Josh may have to do some fancy editing because I was supposed to have it written down and I don't think I did. Hang on one second.
Well, the easiest edit is to cut out silence. So just get to where you need to go and then say what you need to say, and it'll be seamless in the edit. Drink, we've got them. Look, we've got them. Say, do you need me to find it? Come on, let's go.
Well, he made a shorter one than what Kickstarter gives you. That's the key. And I'm trying to find where that was, and that's what's kicking my tail right now.
Well, you can just say it's on Kickstarter, and we'll put the link in the show notes anyway. So no one's going to listen to you and type in the URL anyways.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So the Bridgewell Chronicles is on Kickstarter, Make 100 right now. If you followed any Tabletop Journeys things before, you can definitely find us there. You can find us on Facebook. Also, each of the adventures features one of the factions from our last Kickstarter, the Factions book. So
I'm a backer. I have backed it.
Those. So it should be a lot of fun. Links for everything that we've discussed here tonight are going to be in the show notes, and we look forward to hearing more from Frank and how things go. Don't lose touch. Get hold of us. We're on Facebook also, so we friends now.
That's right.
See us, talk to us. Let's do some stuff, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Frank, for joining us here at Tabletop Journeys. Thank you, Michael, for bailing me out, and hopefully you can save me from some Josh ridicule when he gets back from vacation.
No,
probably not.
Nope. nope. You're going to hear it.
Yeah, I'm going to hear it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And, I think Josh is right. It is hard to not do an Irish goodbye on this show. Good night, all.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.